the resume. This is a very important piece, and you most certainly will need one. But not just one, but several versions. So we have a standard letter resume, a PDF, and HTML. So you should have versions of each one of those. So your resume in standard letter, your resume as a PDF, and your resume as an HTML. So the contents of your resume, overall, it's facts about your career, it's your education, it's your abilities. Your resume should be one page. There are some exceptions in the educational industry and in some other specific areas. You can have a vitae or something that is more pages, but for you as an introductory designer, programmer, whatever it may be, you need to have it be one page. You want to list the items in reverse chronological order. Put your most relevant strengths and achievements first. This is because you want them to be seen. You want them more likely to be read. And also leave out personal information that's irrelevant. So when you're writing your resume, you want to use short sentences or phrases. Absolutely no long paragraphs. Use parallel grammatical structure. What does parallel grammatical structure mean? Parallel grammar just means that you write each of your phrases or your bullet points the same way, the same time, the same place, so to speak. So they have to all be consistent with the way that you're writing. And so that goes on with the next, be consistent with your punctuation as well. Use action words, developed, presented, managed, coordinated. You can look up action words, and those are very important. You want to get the most bang for your buck as far as the words go on your resume. Use keywords that have been included in the job description. So go back to your job description and see what keywords that employer listed and see if you can't put those in your resume and also in your cover letter. Your resume is a quick read. People don't spend a lot of time going through resumes, so they want it to be fast, and that's why bullet points, short phrases are best. And you only include information that highlights your accomplishments. You want to list specific skills and software used. List specific experiences. Okay, and you might want to list your skills from sort of general to specific. I see that a lot in resumes. A lot of times students feel that they don't have a lot. They might not feel that they have sufficient content for their resume. But there's probably things that you have done that you don't realize will be of great interest to your potential employer. That would be attending conferences, specialized training that maybe you've received, any one-day workshops that you attended, and of course volunteering. Volunteering in the community is huge. Any work that you've done pro bono. Okay, and for your resume, I can't stress enough, check the grammar, check the spelling, and check the punctuation. And then check it again, and then have somebody else check it for you. There are stories out there, and I know this as being part of interview committees, that if we come across a resume that has misspelled words or targets the wrong job, it gets thrown away right away. No exceptions. If you can't spell words correctly and if you can't target the right job, then you're not worthy of an interview. So make sure all of this is absolutely perfect. Now, as we go through the different types of resumes, I mentioned the standard letter format. This is a piece of business communication. It's a traditional piece of business communication. And like your standard business attire, it shows a certain amount of respect. It can look boring or it can look fabulous. So make it look like $1,000,000. Don't make it look drab. Okay, so think of it as how you would dress to go to an interview. Make your resume look just like that. Your resume is potentially the most important piece of typography design in your portfolio package. This applies obviously more for the designers because they want to see how you can incorporate typography in this standard letter format. Designers with experience can tell with just a quick glance at the typographic design alone, just that typographic design, whether the individual is trained or not, whether they have a good eye for design or not. The function of the resume is to convey factual information as clearly as possible. It really is an exercise in restraint. Some of the most effective resumes are type only using one font. Your resume also demonstrates hierarchical lists. So the resume involves making a hierarchy. It's a hierarchical list of items. Main topics should be easy to identify without calling more attention than they need. So you don't want to overly decorate. You don't want to have, headings and then subheadings and have them both be bold and caps and bolded and larger font. Overkill. Now, there are some resumes that designers do that are more artistic. Even though you may go for a more artistic, you need to have a traditional. But in that artistic resume, make sure that you're still thinking about typography, thinking about design elements and principles. So it's not just to show how wild and creative you can be. There needs to be restraint. Your resume should retain the elements of your brand identity. So we're talking about fonts, we're talking about color scheme. So the resume is part of your brand identity. The PDF resume, this is something that you should have on your site, on your portfolio website. And you want to have a link to a PDF that can be downloaded so they can print it. This is very, very wise. Sometimes they'll go out just to your portfolio site and they'll want to have your resume, and so they'll go ahead and download and print it themselves. Along with this on your website, you also should think about an HTML resume. And this is just basically for your website. It's an HTML version that's just displayed on a page within your portfolio. The benefit of this, or the advantage, is that it allows it to be scanned by search engines. It allows it to be viewed without the hassle of downloading a PDF. And the HTML version can be a little bit different than your traditional print because a lot of times on the web we use less words. So it's less verbose. It's more telegraphic in the syntax than your print. Because you're trying to get the point across even faster. People are less inclined to read long sentences on screen. We don't read a lot. So again, it has to be very straight to the point. Also, a thing to think about in your HTML resume on your website is that type sizes and formatting options might look fabulous. They might look great in your print standard letter format resume, but they might not look so good on the web. So there might have to be some compromises happening there. So the different types of resumes: modern, traditional, and artistic. If you go out and Google any of those, you're going to find some examples. Not to say all of them that you see out there are good. Modern, the approach here is less is more. Typically, these are done in a sans serif font with lots of white space. Traditional typically are done in a serif font. Not to say that's the only way you can do it, because I've seen some traditional resumes done in a sans serif or mix of sans serif. The colors in a traditional, there might be few printed, but it's basically white. It's a white, black and white printout because that's what a lot of times people will use. And then the artistic is just as it says, it's artistic. So when you're thinking about resume design, white space is good. Make sure you don't forget about white space. Again, skip the fluff, straight to the point. It's very brief, it's straight to the point. People are not going to read a lot. Less is more. Don't put anything on your resume that's older than 5 years unless you have reason or justification to do so. Your resume is not highly detailed. And again, the layout should not be too loud or too bold. So as you begin writing your resume, get feedback from your family, get feedback from your peers, get feedback from coworkers. Just try to get this thing to be the most perfect piece that you've ever written.